What is an experience you had at a courthouse that you'll never forget? Getting jury duty was literally my worst nightmare. I had just started this new job as a receptionist. My boss was already giving me dirty looks for taking time off, and honestly, I was planning to just not show up. But my mom guilt-tripped me with this whole speech about civic duty and how disappointed my dead grandmother would be. So there I was on a Monday morning, sitting in this freezing courthouse with 30 other people who looked just as miserable as I felt. The case was pretty heavy. An elderly man named Robert had died during a home invasion. Heart attack from the shock, apparently. The guy on trial was this nervous-looking dude in his 30s, covered in tattoos, fidgeting with his hands the whole time. His name was Jake. I kept staring at him because something about his face seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it. When they read the victim's address during opening statements, my stomach dropped. Maple Street. That was 2 blocks from where my Uncle Tony lived. I started paying more attention after that. The prosecutor painted this picture of Jake breaking in alone, searching for drugs or money, causing the old man's death. Pretty straightforward case, they said. But then the defense lawyer started pointing out weird stuff, like how there were 2 different sets of footprints in the mud outside Robert's back door. The cops said it was just overlap from Jake walking back and forth, but the lawyer had photos showing they were clearly different shoe sizes. The prosecutor brushed it off, said criminals aren't exactly careful about their footwork. That's when it hit me. Jake wasn't just familiar because he had one of those faces. He was David's friend, my cousin David. They used to hang out all the time when we were kids. Jake would come to family barbecues, play video games in David's basement. I hadn't seen him in years, but it was definitely him. The trial went on for a week. Every day, more details came out that made my skin crawl. The timeline the prosecutor gave matched almost perfectly with this story my uncle had told me about a year ago. He'd mentioned David getting into some kind of trouble, making a stupid mistake that they had to clean up quietly. I thought he meant like a DUI or something. Not this. The defense kept hammering on those footprints, but the jury wasn't buying it. Most of them had already made up their minds. Jake looked guilty, acted nervous, had a record. Case closed. When they announced the guilty verdict, I watched him break down completely. His mom was sobbing in the gallery. I felt sick. After we were dismissed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. That night I called my Uncle Tony, trying to be casual. Asked him about David, how he was doing. Tony got weird and quiet, said David had been going through a rough patch but was doing better now. When I pressed him about what kind of rough patch, he changed the subject fast. I decided to drive to my uncle's house the next day. Found him in his garage working on his truck. I didn't beat around the bush. I told him about the trial, about Jake, about those footprints. Watched his face go completely white. He tried to deny it at first, said I was being crazy. But when I mentioned the timeline, how everything matched his story about David's mistake, he just collapsed onto this plastic chair and started crying. 50-year-old man, bawling like a baby. David had confessed everything to him a year ago. They'd broken in together, David and Jake. When the old man surprised them, David panicked and shoved him. The guy fell, hit his head, had the heart attack. David ran first, left Jake to deal with it. By the time Jake called 911, it was too late. Tony said David came home that night covered in mud, terrified. He helped him burn his clothes, create an alibi. They figured nobody would fight hard enough for some tattooed ex-con to find the truth. And they were right until I ended up on that jury. I reported everything to the police the next day. David was arrested within a week. The whole family turned against me, said I destroyed his life over some criminal who didn't matter anyway. But Jake was released after 6 months when David finally confessed.